I like literally can't do this without you.
I know.
So.
Yes. Yay. Oh, well,
Yes.
thank you for having me on. You have done such incredible work, and I've loved following you and the work you do with women to empower us, all of us, to be more embodied and to heal through trauma. And you've been such a light to me, and I've learned so much from just following you. So I'm delighted to be here.
Sweet of you. Well, thank you. I'm really excited that you were able to do it and that you're here. I cannot wait to share your story. After we got off the phone with each other the other day, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be so good.
Oh.
I'm so excited. So real fast, I'm just going to let the people who are watching know, guys, thanks so much for being here. If you have any questions that you would like Amanda or I to answer, you can just comment them down below. And if you have anything that you love, if you hit the little like button or the heart button, it shows us that you love it. That's really encouraging and lovely too. So, and then at the end, this will be up in my feed for 24 hours, and then it will be on YouTube, and you can get to that through the Trails of the Warrior link in my profile.
Awesome.
Does that sound good? Okay. So let's get started. Tell the people who you are, Miss Amanda.
Yeah. So my name is Amanda. I live in Orlando, Florida. I am a mother to two boys, Jimmy and Luke. Jimmy is 19 and a freshman at University of North Carolina in Charlotte, and Luke is 13 and he's an 8th grader at the Geneva School here in Central Florida. And my day job is in higher ed. So I'm a faculty member at Advent Health University, which is a university attached to a health system here in Orlando. It's actually a nationwide health system, but our headquarters are here in Orlando. And so I teach undergrad and grad students, mostly online right now, in healthcare administration, which is what my degrees are in. Great. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Very nice. Okay. Yes. So when you have stage 4 breast cancer,
Yeah.
When did that diagnosis happen for you?
So I was diagnosed in December of 2018, so just over a year ago. And usually when women are diagnosed with breast cancer, they are familiar with the earlier diagnosis. It's rare. I think like 6 or 7% of women will get a stage 4 diagnosis from the beginning. And so that was my experience. So it's called de novo, which means from the start. So stage 4, right out of the gate, there was other than some pain in my body, there was really no indication that anything was amiss. And the scary thing is I was doing all the right things to prevent this, having checkups with my breast surgeon and having all the scans and imaging and all of that. And so nothing was picked up until it was stage 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's been life-changing, to say the least, and has rewired everything about my life, from how I go through even thinking about the future, to how I parent, to how I process trauma, and tune into my body and what's happening, and caring for myself, and all of the things. I mean, it's completely flipped everything upside down. And there have been a lot of blessings along the way, and a lot of heartache, a lot of trauma as well.
Right. And so when you and I talked on the phone, you had mentioned some really traumatic things from like your past that had kind of culminated, you feel like, in this diagnosis, in this stage that this health situation that you kind of find yourself in right now. Do you want to touch on that? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, okay. Sure, absolutely. So I have kind of one foot in the holistic world of healing, and then I also see an oncologist who's obviously conventional medicine, and I believe that there's paths to healing in both of those worlds. And I've been fortunate to have great healers and providers in both camps. And I had a number of doctors ask me if anything traumatic had happened in my life prior to this diagnosis. And there was a resounding yes, because in 2016, August of 2016, my then husband of 16 years took his life. So he died by suicide. And that has, again, another situation that's completely flipped our lives upside down. And there's context there. We married really young and had kids young. And I'm convinced that anybody with pain that's not dealt with will transmit it, and it will continue to fester until it's processed. And looking back, I can see that that was a lot of James's story. And as his spouse, I absorbed a lot of his pain, and I'm a highly sensitive person. And so I really put my body through a lot in that relationship, and trying to do what I thought was right. But in the end, things got really hard. There was mental illness and addiction and separations. And at the end, he was not himself. And I know that. He was in so much pain. And I think dealing with his own trauma.
Right.
And that led to the end of his life. And that kind of catapulted me into this world of being an only parent to two boys and navigating grief and loss, and not just grief and loss, but traumatic grief and loss. And so that changes.
And not just for you, for everybody.
Yeah,
right?
for everybody. Yes.
Yeah, you're the touchstone for that, for them too.
Yes. Yeah. So my kids, obviously our family, extended family, friends, community. So 2 years into that journey of healing, I really got acquainted with grief and making our mental health a priority, making self-care a priority, and was really trying to do my best, although I was a single mom, working full time, but was really trying to do my best to lead my kids through this tragedy in a way that they were still alive to their hearts and talking about their pain and their grief. And so when I was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, I really do believe, and some of the doctors alluded to, trauma and tragedy kind of tipping the scales for somebody who might be genetically predisposed to something like cancer, or somebody who's lived in a suspended state of stress could tip the scales as well. So I've been unpacking that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to like open that door and to say that living with somebody, being the spouse of somebody who has is struggling with mental health is a form of secondary trauma, which was the first ever episode that we did, was talking about secondary trauma, and that it needs to be dealt with as well as just as importantly and just with as much, I guess, importance. I couldn't think of a word.
Yeah, I agree.
Importance as like primary trauma does, and then the sudden and tragic loss of that same person is still, that's definitely like a huge traumatic experience for you and your boys.
Yeah.
And I know you and I talked, but there's all sorts of diseases that come from experiencing those things. There's all sorts of links that have been drawn at this point to really traumatic situations, living in secondary traumatic stress for long periods of time, experiencing big T trauma. Those kinds of things really affect our bodies. And so, like, not just cancer, diabetes, and like autoimmune
any chronic
diseases,
illness,
any kind of fibromyalgia, migraines, any kind of chronic illness, and also lots of debilitating addictions, I think, too, come from those as well.
Yeah.
So, yes, thank you for sharing that part of your story. I know that it's not like a widely something you widely share, and I appreciate that you told it here. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for holding it.
Yeah. So, what does it look like? What did it look like before? Let me say this. When you were married and like the last few years of your marriage when things were really bad, was self-care or holistic care or anything like that even on your radar? Was that something you knew anything about? No.
No.
And then
no.
you're
Yeah.
just making it through every day.
Like, survival mode for sure.
Survival mode. Okay. And then you then moved into, after he passed, you kind of got into it. How did that come about?
So I was connected with a counselor who sees all types of people, but she especially has a heart for survivors of suicide loss. And she has been phenomenal. Still to this day, I see her because grieving somebody who's died by suicide is really multifaceted. And there's a lot of work that has to be done to get healing. And so she's walked me through each year in a very specific way. And so I would say that was the number one way that I pursued self-care, is just to really start to unpack the wounds and the trauma that was living in my body and had been living in my body for quite some time. Yeah.
And then your boys see therapists too.
Yes. So they've had, early on, they had a consistent counselor, and then over the last couple of years, they've had on and off sessions as needed. And we've really, especially in the last year after this diagnosis, have learned a language as a family, talking about what do you need? What are your needs? And learning how to identify that, whether it be rest or time with friends or introvert time, whatever they need, so that their hearts can be attended to.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, it was falling. Sorry. I was trying to clear something from.
Lost you.
Yeah, there we are.
So then, as comfortable as you are, you want to walk me through like what getting the diagnosis looked like and the emotions, and then the steps kind of you took from there, because from the time your husband passed until your diagnosis was only 2 years, and a lot of your processing and things that you were doing for yourself, it sounds like it was mostly mental health, not a lot of like physical, embodied kind of things.
Yes.
So can you just talk to us like about your diagnosis and what that looked like and what your steps were from there?
Yeah. It was completely traumatic. And I remember being in this period of waiting, where we had the initial MRI scan come back saying that things looked suspicious of malignancy, and every hour, to the biopsy date just felt like an eternity. Knowing that things were not looking good per the reports, but we didn't have a definitive diagnosis. And so that in and of itself is trauma, living in this suspended state of heightened awareness and just being in fight or flight, wanting to know what's going on and not being able to grasp any sort of reality, because all the worst case scenarios go through your mind, yet you're hoping for the best. And so I don't know if anyone watching today has struggled with any sort of chronic illness, but it's even the diagnosis itself can be very traumatic, coming to terms with that. And then I think I spent a few months in this state of shock, really grieving what this could mean, because if you look up statistics online, you see that somebody with stage 4 cancer doesn't have a long time. With metastatic breast cancer, the average person, they say, the average person has a couple years, and about 20% of those with metastatic breast cancer make it 5 years. And so these were statistics that I did not like, my kids did not like, and given what we had already walked through, it was just another really traumatic thing. And so it took me a few months to kind of sit in that and try to find the life in it. I remember, I think it was Carol who's listening, but she gave my sister a word saying, Amanda will find life in this. And I clung to that. Like, there has to be life in this too. And that has for sure been what I've experienced. And so I'm grateful that even in the hard, that God shows up and there's good all around. So the diagnosis was hard, and then kind of getting my footing with treatment, and you hope and you pray that your body responds, because as my oncologist says, we have to stop the ship before we turn it around. And so you don't want things to progress any further. So there's a lot of anxiety, still to this day, anxiety about what's happening in my body and having no control over it. There are things I can do to ease my mind and to make healthy choices. But at the end of the day, I don't know what's happening in my cells. And so it's a lot of surrender.
Mm-hmm. And you decided to explore just both kind of roads to healing. So you have an oncologist, you have like more kind of a modern approach, but then you also went like kind of a holistic route. What does that part look like, and what made you decide that?
Oh gosh. There's nothing like getting a diagnosis like this that causes you to do a deep dive into what the heck. And the things that I uncovered, I mean, the linkage between trauma and physical illness or physical manifestations. So I really wanted healing trauma to be part of my healing journey, healing my heart. And that's healing, right? Regardless of what scans say, that's still healing. And I got connected with an amazing acupuncturist in Orlando, Christina, who has been such a light. She's helped me tremendously with side effects because I'm on oral chemo. So I take 2 pills every day to fight the cancer. And so she's been tremendous at checking in and seeing what my body needs in that particular moment. Side effects, I had some breathing issues and lung issues, and she worked her magic, and I've been feeling amazing. She helps with fatigue, she helps with even heart issues, and just kind of bringing the body back into balance, a state of homeostasis. I've done healing prayer, and that's been really transformational, going to those places where the wounds are stored in our bodies, and getting healing from some of that. I've done a lot of nutritional type learning. So I'm mostly plant-based, and that is just my personal choice. So I can flood my body with nutrients in a way that supports what my immune system is trying to do, and really gives my body the support it needs while it's fighting. And so there's been a lot in the holistic realm that has really made a difference in my life, and on the path for sure.
I love that. I also happen to know that you are in training to become a holy yoga instructor.
Yes. So I started my yoga teacher training in October, so a few months ago, and it was just a few months after my oncologist finally cleared me to do yoga. Yoga had been part of my practice off and on for a variety of seasons. And in this particular season, I just felt like my body was saying, stretch, breathe into these places that are working hard, be aware of your body. And I think for the first time after this diagnosis, I was given that opportunity. And as soon as he cleared me for yoga, I went back to almost a daily practice on my mat, even if it's just for a few minutes a day. And it was mind blowing, the peace that it brought me, the awareness again of breath and just breathing into places that need love, breathing into places that need healing, getting my mind in the right place instead of staying in that state of anxiety, letting it focus on or put an intention out there on healing and on light and on love and beautiful things like that. So I started in October at a studio here in Orlando, Red Sun, and they've been amazing. And I'll finish up the end of April, I believe. And so when I introduced myself with the cohort, I said, I don't know that I'll ever teach a yoga class, but this training is a gift to myself because I really want to listen in to my body and see what it has to say and learn how I can keep loving myself as I'm on this journey.
Yeah. So what are some things you've learned?
Yes. Oh, I've learned that I love yoga. I mean, I can tell a difference in my spirit when I'm doing it versus
Me
not
too.
doing it. Yes, I know you get that. I love the gentle kind of hatha classes that really take time to just notice sensations in your body, notice what's hurting. I've had a lot of bone pain with this diagnosis because this breast cancer metastasized to several bones in my body. And so even just carving out time to, again, set an intention to put healing thoughts out there for my body has been remarkable. I mean, and there's a lot of research out there on mindfulness and just being aware of our thoughts matter and they make a difference. So, so it's been really good. I do like the kind of vinyasa flows, the ones that are a little bit more intense, but my sweet spot is just you're staying on your mat and you're flowing slow and you're feeling into your body. And that's been transformational for me.
Yeah.
No headstands.
No headstands for
No
you.
following.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you use meditation or your time on your mat to do like visualizations of like the chemo pills you're taking, like the chemo attacking the cancer, or like your body like rejuvenating? Like, do you do like that kind of embodiment work where you just like picture your body just working really well and like working to your advantage?
Yes.
How do you like, does that feel like it's positive for you? Does it feel like that's a great practice for you, or you're like, take it or leave it? Like, how do you feel about that practice?
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. And the classes that are offered at the studio where I'm learning that are centered around healing or healing from trauma are really my favorite ones because they take us to those places where you are setting those specific intentions or having those specific prayers that your oncologist might not be telling you to do, or you might not think it's going to make a difference. But I believe it absolutely does because our mind is so powerful, and when we can settle into the positive thinking, it makes such a difference, even in just the walk throughout the day and how I'm meeting life as it comes at me. So so every time I take my pills, I pray that they will serve my highest good and that they will do the job without harming anything else, and a lot of intention setting. Yes.
Yeah. I love that. Good. So a lot of the practices that I guess I'm hearing from you is that acupuncture has been huge for helping you. That yoga, moving your body, taking breath into places of your body that need the healing, that need the rejuvenation, that need the love. And just setting intention and mentally battling for your body, and also remaining positive. I guess my question then is like, how how have you succeeded, do you think, in being positive and loving your body when you're walking through this? Because I've worked with some cancer patients, and they are a lot of times just mad, like they're
Yeah.
mad at their
Yeah.
bodies, and it's
Yeah.
hard to get
Oh,
them to get to that place of forgiveness and like
yeah.
loving their bodies. So
Yeah.
what did that look like for you?
Yeah. Oh, such a good question. I think for me, and I don't know if I'm just different in this way, but I had such deep compassion for my body after I was diagnosed because of
Mm,
everything I had been through and how it had really worked hard to keep me alive. I
yeah.
really,
Oh yeah.
I, and I know this might sound silly, but I thank my body. I thank the organs that
Mm,
are doing such hard work, in processing this medicine and filtering toxins. And I thank my immune
mm,
system for the work that it's doing. I really do think there's been a deep compassion that I've had for
mm.
what I've lived through and kind of being
I love that.
disconnected from my mind and body, and then
Yes.
now coming into better connection, which is funny because yoga means union of mind body.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
building that union, I've just had such compassion for who I was and what I lived
Mm,
through. And I know it's so common for people who are facing illness, chronic illness, cancer, to be angry.
mm-hmm.
But there's
Mm-hmm.
something in me that just said, no, have compassion. Your body has worked so hard. It is being so courageous. And, and I do, I have gratitude for my body. And I
Mm,
think, I don't want to paint the picture that it's always easy. I have a lot of hard days. In fact, this has been an incredibly hard week, with just some stuff going on outside of even this cancer journey. And so what I feel like growing in embodiment has taught me is knowing how to go back to those places. So I now know when I'm in this, fight or flight, anxiety ridden, everything's doom
mm,
and gloom, kind of
mm-hmm.
sympathetic nervous system is on overdrive. And I have the tools now to then activate my parasympathetic nervous system. And so I love my hammock. My sister got me a hammock chair, so that's inside too. And little tools that
Wow.
I can do to rock, or rest or find,
Mm,
my yoga mat, carving out time to actually get 8 to 10 hours of sleep is huge because your body does
yeah.
such repair during that time. And
Yes.
just being selfish about myself, I think for the first time has been huge with honoring my body and having that compassion.
Yeah. And then it makes you, it's counterintuitive, but like having that selfish mindset about caring for yourself makes you so much better able to be present and loving and authentic with your kids
Yes, yes,
too,
yes.
like to help them with what they're navigating, with what they're emotionally going through. If you don't have the reserves to do that, there's just no way,
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
know.
remember asking my counselor 3 years ago, how do I do this? Like, how do I parent through this? Like, our
Mm,
world and their world just came undone. And she said, Amanda, you do your work and they will be okay. If you do your work, they will be okay. And that's the
yeah.
same today, right? If I continue
Mm-hmm.
to do everything I know to do, whether cancer is in my body as it is or not, but do the
Mm-hmm.
work to keep my mind in a really healthy place and to keep honoring my body, I'll be better for that. And I'll be a better
Mm-hmm.
mother. I'll be a better friend. I'll be a better teacher, all of those things.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Amen. You
Mm,
also have a really incredible community around
mm,
you. So, uh, tell us just a little bit about like Eyes Up
yes,
and
yes.
what that looks like in your community and the people who are in your life.
Yes. So I remember chatting with a friend, Allie, after this diagnosis, and she said, how are you doing this? What are you thinking? How, just trying to make sense of it. And just in passing, I said, I can't keep my eyes on my circumstances for too long. I have to keep my eyes on God. And she said, eyes up. And I said, yes, eyes up. And so it became this kind of phrase between she and I, when I would see her, eyes up, eyes up, eyes up. And then this past summer, her son, Campbell, who's a beloved young man, wanted to run miles in my honor to raise money for treatment. And so she put together the Eyes Up campaign, and it was amazing. And people donated shirts and their bracelets made, and just a really tender way to support me and my family. I'm going to cry thinking about it.
It's amazing. I'm going to cry.
Yeah, just the generosity and the love, because there are all the right, lots of reasons that I might sit and think, where's the love? Like, it's been a really hard story. But God keeps showing up and showing me that there's love all around. And Eyes Up was one, I called it a big love explosion. And, my son Luke is 13, and he reminds me now, Mom, eyes up. And so it's become this thing. It's not just about cancer. It's not about healing necessarily. It's like, trust God. God's got it. And I do believe that. I do believe at my core, no matter what happens, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And so Campbell's been running miles and been like raising support.
Yes,
like people pay him for every mile, and he donates. How many miles has he ran?
So
he started.
Yeah, he ran this past summer hundreds of miles. I mean, the kid is amazing. He, as a middle schooler, has been on varsity cross country and track, and he's so stinking fast. And the funny thing is, he doesn't like to run, but he's so skilled and gifted at it that this provided him a purpose, his mom would say. And so he ran and ran and ran more than he needed to run, and he raised over $20,000. And so it's been incredible.
I can't even.
I know.
That is amazing, because acupuncture is not cheap, and trying to do things that are not mainstream, and like having cancer, the financial burden is so much, and I think people don't always fully grasp that, and especially just being a single mom and trying to do that, and trying to work full time and going to your chemo and like just all the appointments. Like, it's just so much, and that your community like rallied around you, and that all the kids at your kids' school have Eyes Up T-shirts and bracelets, and that this kid is just out there running.
I know.
Around the globe, basically.
It's precious. Yeah,
it's amazing and precious. Yeah, I love that.
And I think the beautiful thing is that the community keeps showing up. I've had somebody donate acupuncture sessions, and so that's something that I haven't had to think about financially. And now when I'm buying supplements, I'm on so many supplements, and just different things holistically. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to check, can I afford it this month? But I know that I can, because of Campbell and because of Eyes Up. And so you're right. It is not just a physical and mental fight, but there's such a financial burden. And in a lot of the metastatic breast cancer spaces, people talk about bankruptcy and going on disability. I mean, all kinds of things happen because it's a lot of money to try and stay well. Yeah.
It is. And I think there's something to be said in your willingness to share with others that there's a need, and allow them to step in to help you.
It's so hard. It's hard for me.
So hard. I think one of the things a pastor said to me years and years and years ago, and I've said it to a million people since then, is that people desire to help. And when you close yourself off to that help, or you're in a very like, no, I can do it, I don't need help, what you're doing is robbing them of the joy that they would legitimately have in helping you.
Yeah, that's good.
And
That's really good.
so being able to say like, no, like this is hard. This
Yeah.
freaking sucks. I need some
Hmm.
help. And letting them like just come beside you and be like, okay, we've got this. Like I can do something. I can run forever. I can make t-shirts. I can, and I think that that's so great. And I think that that's really important for people who are listening who might be going through something really hard right now,
Yeah.
that that not only is there importance in making sure your mental health is healthy.
Hmm. Hmm.
Couldn't think of
Yeah.
another.
Hmm.
So your mental health is good, but also that you are loving your body well, that you have
Yeah.
compassion for your body, that you are doing things that bring you home to your body. And some of the suggestions from Amanda have been to do acupuncture, to swing on a hammock. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
To swing on her hammock, to get on her mat and do some yoga and some deep breathing, to mentally think about the hard work that her body is doing and to be grateful and to have gratitude for the different parts of her body and the ways that they're working to keep her alive, to keep her healthy,
Yeah.
to fight this cancer.
Yeah.
And then I think the final piece too is let people help you.
Yeah.
Like
That's
let
good.
people step in and keep your faith, keep your eyes up.
Yeah. Eyes up. There it is. Yeah. There
I
it
love it
is.
so much.
Amber.
Thank you
Aw.
so much for being here
Thank
and
you for
just
having me.
sharing yourself with the people who I know will need this and need to
Mm.
hear it. And not everybody is going through cancer or a loss of a spouse or somebody who dies by suicide in their family, but everybody goes through like moments where they think,
Yeah.
could another thing happen?
Yeah.
That's terrible. Or
Yeah.
they go through chronic pain or chronic illness and just think, I am so mad at my
Yeah.
body right now. And I
Yeah.
think that this can help. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful
I agree.
for
I
you.
agree. Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you for your platform and the work that you're doing, Amber. It's so important, and
Oh,
I'm glad to know you. I've learned so
ah,
much from you. Thank
same,
you.
same, sister. Thanks for being here. And then if
Yes.
anybody has any questions, you guys can pop them up. And then this video, like I said, will be live here for 24 hours. And then it'll be on YouTube. And you can go to the link in my profile. That's Tales of the Warrior to see it whenever you want to and share it with whoever you know might need to hear it.
Awesome.
You're amazing, Amanda. Thank you so
You're
much for taking the
amazing.
time out for this.
Thank you. Mwah.
I appreciate you.
Bye.